Succeed with succession. It's one of my favourite phrases because it's all about keeping your ground full of growing plants all the time through the year. And a lot of vegetables grow in half a year. That means that you can have seed or plants ready to keep cropping, and with no dig your soil is more healthy and keeps cropping for you. You don't need to worry so much about rotation either. I don't really count that in as a factor, so I'm just looking for gaps which are going to appear, as in going to appear, so that you just need that bit of knowledge when, say, 3 to 4 weeks time, the last harvest will have been taken from a particular plant. That's going to open up a space. And I just thought I'd highlight this lovely message I received from Scott in Scotland, who said, he sent me a photo of a really abundant plot, and he said 3 years ago, this was a wasteland really. He said, your advice has been really helpful and inspirational because you've enabled me to keep cropping all this time and not have empty ground. So right the way through the year, it's growing something, it's growing food. And although we're in June now, you know, we need to be thinking ahead for autumn and winter. So to give you this example, here I've got some lettuce which we've been cropping, we're picking every week. We've taken 5, if not 6 harvests, weekly harvests of outer leaves, and we picked them yesterday, so that's opened up a bit of space before the next harvest in a few days time. And it means I'm just using my dibber here to draw a drill in the surface compost, which I'm then going to water a bit because it is dry. This is a factor with succession sowing and planting, that you are doing it often into quite dry ground, so you will need some access to water for sure. And I'm pre-watering the drill so that the moisture is where the seedlings, or the seeds rather, need it. And I'm going to sow some parsnips, which are famous for being difficult to germinate, mainly because they take a long time to germinate. But because we're watering this lettuce all the time, well, all the time, say twice a week, enough though to keep the ground moist. And that means we're doing 2 things at once. We'll be watering the lettuce and watering also the parsnips. And then I'm just going to cover over the drills. So it's very quick and straightforward. The main thing now will be to keep them moist. And you can also do this. You can just tamp it down with your foot, you know, even walk on it, except there's not really space to do that. So there we have one example, and that was sowing seeds, which will take quite a long time, but while they're germinating, the lettuce is still cropping. These lettuces will finish in about 5 weeks. We'll twist them out. All being well, by then we'll have little rows of parsnips, probably some carrots up there as well coming up. Sowing from seeds takes longer in the ground. I want to show you next sowing seeds in module trays to transplant, because that way you gain even more time by having a plant ready when a certain crop finishes. Raising transplants is a fantastic way of adding to your growing season, because you're sowing a seed like in a propagating space, wherever it is. It doesn't have to be a greenhouse like this, but somewhere undercover really helps. And your little plant is growing for 3 or 4 weeks already before it goes in the ground. So you basically added that length of time to the growing season. And if you interplant between something else, that's adding even more time. So just to give you 2 quick examples here, this is French bean. It's some I saved seed of last year. And I'm just going to do a few just to give you the idea. So I've pre-filled module tray with potting compost, and I'm dropping 1 seed in each tray, push it down, fill it over and keep it watered. They'll come up in about 5 days, be ready to transplant in as little as 2 weeks, actually, could be 3. So you've got options there. And then beetroot, I take a few seeds, drop them in. I put in 3 actually. I find that gives on average 4 plants, but we do thin them. I want to make sure that the clumps are not too thick. So these will be ready to transplant again in about 3 weeks. And I don't always know for sure where I'm going to put these in, but sometimes just having plants ready gives you the spur to find that bit of space. And other options that you could consider at this time of year, a classic one is potatoes. Whether they're first earlies or second earlies in particular, they're going to finish sometime towards the end of June, by the middle of July even. So halfway through the summer, and you've got time then to plant leeks, for example, and many other things. You still plant beetroot, for example, after potatoes, or so carrots just. And then spinach, which is finishing now, you could plant cucumber or courgette even. Again, you would need to have the plants ready. So this is where the bit of forethought and raising the transplants really helps. Carrots, you could plant French beans between the carrots that are going to mature quite quickly now. After beetroot, you can transplant purple sprouting broccoli. It's a really good time now to sow purple sprouting broccoli and kale, for example, even up to the end of June. You could, after onions, you could transplant radicchio. Chicory for radicchio is a really nice autumn harvest. After cabbage and calabrese, you could plant fennel. The list is really quite long, so do have a look at some of the options, and I hope that you'll enjoy keeping your garden really full and having lots of food to harvest through the autumn and winter. There's a lot of information in my recent book, Skills for Growing, which concentrates in a whole section on propagation and succession. And these are the pages which Scott mentioned in his email as being particularly helpful. He said he read them, he had to reread them. He's like, right, so much to know there and learn and apply. And check it out. This one is my calendar, which has the sowing dates all year. So if I open it in June, you can see there's lots of possibilities, and it just helps to keep you on track. Keep that hanging on the wall and just keep an eye on it to remind you to make these sowings.